Hey, good morning. Welcome everyone to Garage Geeks. So this is the fabulous four, and I'm just getting settled in. I hope everyone's doing well. I am going to put the invite code. Let me grab that. I'm going to copy that so I can put it into the chat. Let's see. I've kind of forgot how to do this. You have to do it a special way. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not getting that right. Let me try it again. So I click invite, I click copy, I did that. And then good morning, Vinyl Lounge. I am trying to paste the link out. Okay, there, good. It's in there. It's finally in there. Okay, so today we are going to be discussing Captain America's Winter Soldier, James Blish novel Spock Must Die. Good morning, Hall Yeah, and Vinyl Lounge. And we are going to be looking at Paul McCartney's Pipes of Peace, and finally, The Seventh Seal, movie by Ingmar Bergman. So, Vinyl Lounge or Hall Yeah, which one should we do first? You go ahead and put it in the comments. I usually do the book first because so few people actually read the book. Oh, okay. So you want to do Paul McCartney first? Cool. Okay. So Paul McCartney, Pipes of Peace. Now, the reason I chose this is because I have this what do you call it, digipack, and I love digipacks. And this digipack actually has a bonus disc of outtakes and other stuff. So if you like Paul McCartney, you should probably get this version of it, and it's called the Archive Collection. As you could see on the side right there, the Paul McCartney Archive Collection. Right? And I'm actually trying to get all of these, but I can't really find them used often. I think I have 2 of them. So I'm looking forward to getting more of these. So I think I did that. So you read half the book. That's cool. So when we do that, you can add your thoughts. Now remember, in this stream, you can join in. So Hall, yeah, do you want to talk about Paul McCartney? Because if you join right now, that's what you're going to be doing.
Hell yeah, I'll talk about Paul McCartney. I listened to it.
Oh, good, great. So what did you think of it?
I love it musically. The arrangements I think are really, really good. I found a lot of the lyrics not great.
I thought the exact same thing, and I have a problem because I'm in the John Lennon camp, and so every time I listen to Paul McCartney, I've kind of got that battle going on in my head because I'm always thinking Paul never adds up to John, and it's the lyrics, they're so silly.
Okay, so this was literally what I thought on the first song. I listened to this back and forth on the way to work, and it was a while back. So it was I thought, man, the Pipes of Peace sounds like what, I'm 14 and this is deep. Like this is what I'm going to put in the high school poetry magazine. Don't beat the drums of war, play the pipes of peace.
and there are other songs too. Like there's this one song where he's talking about meet the common people.
Yes.
And he's going around and I'm just thinking John would have handled this so much better.
So much better. But
in fact, he has a song about the working man.
There is a
working man, right?
Yes, yes.
So much better.
So I loved the music. I loved, like I said, the arrangements. There was a lot of like the big orchestral, the layered Sgt. Peppery, kind of stuff. And I thought it was really well done. I don't know if you've ever, there's a newer group called, they're 2 brothers called the Lemon Twigs. And I think that they take so much from Paul McCartney's arrangements in their own. And that I just kept getting those kind of feelings too. But yeah, I enjoyed this album. I really did. And okay, is it, and forgive me because I don't know, but it was that Michael Jackson on one of the tracks too?
I think two. So
Okay.
he's on Say Say Say, and then he's on
Yes.
one of the songs that I didn't know, which oh, I don't even have the track listing. Hold on, it's on my phone. I can tell you. If you want to go ahead and keep talking, I pulled it up on Spotify just in case we wanted to hear a snippet. So let me grab it. I
I
think he
thought
was
I
on.
remember Say 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 was a radio song.
Yeah,
So I remember that. But I thought those two were I thought the Michael Jackson songs were some of the better ones. And it's funny because with Michael Jackson, because of his performance, I don't even know what the lyrics were. I don't care.
yeah,
Like it, he just takes it to another level. And so, as an album, it's not anything I've listened to it all the way through once. And the version I listened to then had alternate takes on some of the tracks. So when it got
yeah,
down to that, I was like, I'm not listening to those.
yeah.
I
It
did
was
my homework.
overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was listening to it, I listened to the extended version a couple of times, and then I was like, "Oh, this is too much." So I just went back to the original album, and I'm going to say that normally I give an album about 5 times, and I still wasn't warming up to it. However, I kept listening to it, and you know what? I actually I was starting to really like it. So I think upon repeated listens, you're going to enjoy it even more. But who wants to, make 20 times before you really, really enjoy something?
Right. Yeah. So it was, I'll tell you what I liked is I don't think I would have tracked this one down on my own. And
Yeah,
so I liked that you put that out there as kind of like a challenge to listen to it. And I didn't hate it.
yeah, no, I
And
didn't hate it either. It's just some of the lyrics were wonky, but yeah, like I said, over time, I started to appreciate it more and more. Um, but Mark says that this is a notoriously bad album, and I did not know that. Mark, do
yeah,
you want to come on and tell us why? Like, what's going on? I mean, I just picked this randomly because I bought it, and I didn't research it or anything, and I only remember. I was a kid when Say 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 came out, and of course, I was singing along with everyone else. Oh, Michael
mhm.
Jackson, and they did another song as well that was on the charts. I think something about black and white, or I remember in the
Was he
video
on that?
they're like carnival performers.
Okay.
Dude, I
I,
don't.
I don't remember. But yeah. Mark says McCartney and lyrics so cringy. They are cringy. They just feel very juvenile. They're so shallow, but the person who's saying it feels like they're a lot deeper than they come off.
Yeah,
So
when you really think about it, because Lennon has those amazing lyrics, right? And then
right,
McCartney has that beautiful music writing, and that's what made them so good together.
yeah,
And of course, I love one of my favorite albums is A Band on the Run by Paul McCartney because I
okay.
grew up listening to that over and over again. But I don't know a lot of his other albums, and that's really another reason why I wanted to give more in his catalog a try. But even when I listen to Band on the Run, now I realize that the lyrics are not that great on a lot of the songs. And probably his best song on that album is a song that has like nonsense lyrics.
But those can be so great is the thing, and, like, Band on the Run, I don't know the full album, but so many of those songs, like, because you've heard them and they become that background you don't
Yeah,
even old there's a lot of Beatles songs too that don't have the best lyrics, but the music is what makes it.
yeah.
And you're
So
right, Steve.
this is yeah, I remember I let me go ahead and do this because I'm not very good at it. I'm gonna go ahead and I have to keep doing this because I forget to paste the link into the chat in case anybody else wants to join. So yeah, kind of Pipes of Peace, an enjoyable listen, but ultimately a throwaway. I
Yes,
think,
I
yeah,
can give that the same. Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I do not see myself going. I would pick so many other things to listen to from the Beatles or John Lennon.
yeah, and I was kind of a little bit. I mean, I'm not ever really worried to give my opinion, but I was like, oh my gosh, I got to say bad things about Paul McCartney because he's got a rabid fan base, like
Yeah,
rabid, and it's just like, oh, I don't necessarily understand how it's justified, but okay,
the music is great.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm really enjoying this album, and I'm glad that I have that because I will return to it, and I was enjoying every song. I don't think there's a horrible song on the album. It's just you got to tune out those lyrics.
You
You know?
really do.
All right. So I think we made quick work of Paul McCartney.
I,
So,
I didn't have much to say. I'm sorry.
no, I mean, I was actually going to go through each song, like I pulled it up on
Yeah.
Spotify, but then I thought, number one, I'll get copyrighted, and then number two, like what's the point? However, I could ask, did you have a favorite track, or you probably didn't go into it that?
I didn't go into it that much. I mean, as far as like musically, I really found the arrangement of Pipes of Peace to be really impressive. I liked that it had all these different sections, and I liked there was a breakdown or a bridge in the middle where there was just a lot of layers of voices and harmonies, and then a lot of different instrumentation that got kind of orchestral. And I thought that was just really well developed. And then it was kind of weird because after that, which felt kind of like a Sergeant Pepper's, a bigger, more experimental piece of music. Then it went into like these that slap 80s synth bass sound of some of the other tracks that had that
Yeah,
more, it was way more hollow on a couple of them. And there was an acoustic one that was, a more laid back one that was kind of okay. I think it was that Working Man one. And that one I didn't care for much at all.
yeah,
But yeah, I like the ones that were more complex in terms of their arrangement, because I felt like those were the ones that felt to me like where the Beatles were going towards the end that I enjoyed a lot. And I know that's where his input was in those albums.
yeah. To piggybacking off of that, I noticed at the very beginning of the album, which is Pipes of Peace, you got this orchestra making like a cacophony of sound,
Yeah.
like you would at a symphony. They tune and everything, and right before you go into that, beautiful, harmonizing where the instruments play together, you get this crazy sound. And it's supposed to represent, kind of like war and then melding into peace, I guess. And I really enjoyed that kind of aspect, at the beginning of the album.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, the music, I can't really complain. Even the stuff that was 80s synthy was of its time. So I forgive it.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to say goodbye to Morton because he was
Don't you leave. You got to hear about comics and Star Trek.
nah. Some people don't need to. Oh my God! So Mr. Ustad, he's just being what do you call it, flippant. So then I guess since you're already on, we can go right into the Spock Must Die, and
Okay.
I'm going to confess I have one page left.
Oh,
I was reading it this morning because I was so bad. Everybody, if you don't know already, I was sick, and I was struggling to get just to get through the material. Because I was ill, and it's kind of unforgivable that I didn't finish the book. Like this morning, I was reading, and
well, I
the end
didn't
of the book
finish it
actually
either.
has a lot of stuff and a lot of good stuff. But go ahead and
Okay.
tell me what you think.
Well, so I had a couple of thoughts. Like I really actually, and like you, going back to work, I got really sick this month.
Mm,
And it really put a kink in everything I've been doing lately. But um, y- as the opening chapter with Bones talking about his fear of the transporters, with him talking about his daughter, there were just some really nice character moments at the beginning. I really liked the opening chapter. The opening chapter actually grabbed me. And then as it went on, I just started caring less and less about what was happening, like Spock 1 and Spock 2. So like the story is that you're foreshadowed with Bones's fear of the transporter, and then they have this transport accident that gives them two copies of Spock, and they can't recreate it. There's that one section where Scotty's like copying animals, and one of the animals dies, which is weird.
animal experimentation.
Yeah, it seemed a little much. I thought the characterization was pretty good by the author. I think you said this is his first, like he was doing adaptations of episodes, and this is his
Yes.
first like original story. And it did feel like an episode of the original series, and maybe that's why halfway through I started getting kind of bored. It felt like one of those stories that there's no A and B, you just have one thing happening throughout. and I didn't feel like, and I do need to go in and finish it. But it was not like compelling me to go. I kept going to other books on my nightstand and other comics and things rather, and I'd pick it up and I'd read a chapter and I'd just be like, "Ugh, okay. I mean, it's still the same thing. Like nothing new has happened.
Yeah.
There's still two Spocks. They still don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And I think like early on too, something that really jumped out to me was the characterization of the women. The like Kirk says something about Yeoman Rand, like, that he's got to stay away from her because I can't remember, but it was very sexist. Then they
Very.
make a comment about Spock's virility and how all of the women swoon over him.
They made
Um,
some comments about Uhuru, I think, in this one.
yeah, I feel like there was something in there as well. Like it was something about her and Spock. Like it was that same chapter, I think. So that was, I don't know. I mean, when was this even written? Because it was definitely
Probably
after
around
this.
1971, I would think.
Yeah,
No, 1970.
70.
I
So
think the show ended around 68 or 69.
69, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
So I also felt that this was very much like reading or watching an episode.
Yeah,
And I think that's to his strength because that's what the audience would have wanted, right? So he
sure.
was able to like jump in and just like make another episode. You didn't get to the end, but the author did some crazy things that would affect the entire Star Trek universe. And I'm wondering how they let him do that. I don't know if I should spoil it or not, but like I was really shocked at one of the consequences of the book that comes near the end.
Okay.
And I just read that this morning. I was like, what? Now, there was something else that I hate. I hate whenever someone runs into their double and they automatically want to kill them. It's explained later, though, and it's
Okay.
explained very well. But I'm like, if I met a double of myself from another time period or another alternate universe, the first thing I wouldn't if I wouldn't want to kill myself. I'd be like, hey, you're handsome, let's go. I wouldn't be like, I'm gonna kill you and take you.
Yeah, the handling of the doubles was weird. Like that they had this animosity towards each other and they had to lock one up in the sick bay, and that they and then he went on a hunger strike. The Spock one was like refusing to do anything. And
Well, that was calculated because they explained he couldn't eat human food.
okay.
And so that was explained later. So it was a calculated move on his part because he couldn't let people see him not eating.
Right. And that makes sense. So it's a cool idea. It is a cool idea.
But you didn't get to it got batshit crazy. Like it gets involved with all this telepathy, and they have to go to this planet. Like the Klingons have built this like mind shield around an entire planet because I guess there was an episode like this. That was another thing. This guy is good at referring
Right.
to past Trek. And there would always be like a footnote. Oh, refer to this episode, refer to that, and that's great for the the Trek nerds because that's what they want, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, they're dealing with it's not Kronos, the Klingon homeworld from, current continuity, but I can't remember the name of the planet. But yeah, that's what it had to do with and that's kind of where I left or Organia. So like that's where I left off, is they had finally just arrived there. But that's the thing, is that like I think they could have got there in half the time, but the pacing makes sense for the story, right? It feels like an episode of the show, and the old show is a lot slower. It's a different kind of experience than modern Trek, and that's okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I kind of like Pipes of Peace. I don't think this was terrible. It just I've really struggled to get to the end of this one, and I think I will. I'm not going to stop reading it because I'm halfway through, and it's not like it's
Probably
even
don't need to, but
it's not even that long.
I know. There's my sister. Morning. So I'm going to be calling you either later today or tomorrow, Linda. So nice to thank you for being here. I'm going to say the opposite. And you should take this with a grain of salt because I've been reading a lot of the Trek adaptations that he's done, and I actually really enjoyed this. I thought the writing was solid, and I thought he really has a handle on the Trek universe. Like I felt like when he was writing Spock's dialogue, it felt like things Spock would say, and Kirk. I mean,
Yes.
they felt like, like he did a great job, getting the characters and the dialogue.
And I can't do a Shatner impression, but when I would read the captain's logs, they were written so well, I could hear William Shatner's voice in my head. Same with Spock. All of
Mm.
Spock's lines, I could hear Leonard Nimoy's voice saying it because it was done. So you're absolutely correct. He had the characters, he has a good handle on the universe, and he's writing it in the same vein as the show very well. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not. I'm just
Yeah.
saying for my own reasons.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if you liked like you said, the slowness of the Trek episodes, and how they build up characters, how they introduce the theme at the beginning, and that's what they're going to explore throughout. I mean,
Right.
It's so coincidental, right? They are just talking about the thing that's going to happen, but that's kind of what makes the show fun. And I think these books do a great job. And I've always been curious about these novels. Like, there's a slew of them. And this was like really the first one that was an actual, I think, a Trek novel that wasn't based on the TV show, I think. And so he started it off in a good direction. Now, I don't know about the other books, the later books. I'm going to keep reading them because I'm finding that I'm enjoying them. So, yeah, I mean, I just had one page left to finish.
One page?
One page, but man, I was like reading right until I got on here.
That's crazy.
So Mark said that he made this amazingly hilarious comment and that I skipped over it. And I'm wondering if that's it, Mark. I don't know, your labyrinthine mind and your humor might be escaping me. So remember, Mark, it's kind of difficult. At least for me, I don't know, maybe I'm not a good multitasker, to talk and then do the comments and flip through everything. So sorry, I didn't mean to skip over your hilarious comment. So Mark, was this the one? Was that the hilarious comment? I like Michael Jackson when he was in the Jackson 5. See, I'm laughing because it's actually really bad. All right. So Steve, he says fascinating.
Fascinating.
I'm doctor, not a green blooded. No, yeah. So he's doing Bones, and Bones and Scotty were given a lot to do in this book. In fact, in the second half of the book, they go to the planet, and Scotty is with them. So
cool.
He gets we get to hear a lot of, what is it called? Scottish brogue.
Yeah, there were times where that was written and I'm like, you could have just put the word and I would have done the accent in my head because sometimes it was taken a little far.
And the author wrote how Scotty could turn it off like that, and it depended on how serious he would be, like talking, and then all of a sudden he'd be like, the standard.
But I liked that. That's what I like about a Trek novel is you get those kind of like little insights by the authors. And yeah, I mean, I've read quite a few too. I read more in Next Gen and Voyager, to be honest.
Have you read those books?
I've read some. Yeah. I cannot recommend Q in Law enough. It is it is when Q.
I remember you saying that.
I told you Q in Law is, and it's written by Peter David. Peter David, they really get some good authors for those. But yeah, I mean, I love Trek so much, and I watch it all the time, and I collect the toys. So, I mean, and it's not that I don't appreciate original series. It's just that, original series and the animated series, the original series, are a lot slower.
Yeah. Let me ask you, this is totally off topic and I'm putting you on the spot. What's your favorite Trek series?
I have to say Next Gen, because that is the one that it's what all the other ones that I love from the 90s are born out of. I still like, of the modern ones that are still being made, I think Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds are awesome.
And I haven't watched
subscribe.
Those. Yeah, I need
Strange New Worlds is great because it's episodic. It's Captain Pike, so it's before.
Oh wait,
Kirk.
I have watched that one. Yeah, that's really good.
It's really good. I like it. And then Lower Decks is like it is a
Cartoon.
Trekkies show because it does so many Trek deep cuts and it's funny. Sadly, it's been canceled, but I get it.
Um,
Like it probably has the smallest audience because it's for people who want Star Trek humor. I know a lot of Star Trek people that hate Lower Decks because they're "Oh,
oh.
it's not Star Trek. It's it's making fun of it. It's like no, it's
Did
laughing at
you
itself.
read that book Red Shirts? It won the huge book.
Yeah, I did, and
I read it too, and I wasn't that
okay, yeah,
happy
I
about it.
wanted I wanted a Star Trek book, and
Yeah,
like, and it was really good up to a point, in that novel. And I love John Scalzi, by the way. Like he's written. If you read the Old Man's War series,
I haven't. I have it
oh,
on my shelf.
dude, it's and they're quick reads. Like they're really quick reads. There's like I think there's 4 or 5 of them in that series. But yeah, yeah, and he's a Trekkie and he's a great author. I've liked a lot of his novels, but that one like fell so flat for me because the first half, the promise of what was there, and then to find out that it wasn't, like it really was almost that trope of it was all just a dream. And I hated that. I hated that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It just negates everything that you've gone through. Okay,
Yeah.
so Mark actually wrote me, and he wrote the comment, which is kind of funny, but it got blocked because he used the
Oh.
word kill. So I'll read it to you now because it is kind of funny. He wrote, "If my double liked Pipes of Peace, I might be tempted to kill him." So that was funny.
Okay, that's
Yeah, he got blocked.
I, I like it, Mark. That is very
Uh,
good.
Now I was going to ask you one more question.
Go for it.
So, do you like I forget what it's called now, the other show by
D-
the Family guy, Seth
uh
something, Seth
oh, the
Or
Orville.
yes, do you
So
like
yeah,
Orville?
I really, really liked the first 2 seasons. Um, then it got canceled and they brought it back. And I tried to watch the first episode and I couldn't get into it, but I heard it gets better. I think there's a lot of smart stuff in that. I really do. And Seth MacFarlane is like, he's a Trekkie's Trekkie. So, I think he looked at that show as an opportunity to make a Star Trek show. And it was kind of like, a little bit like Lower Decks before Lower Decks. There's obviously the humor in it. And they wanted him, I think the studio wanted him to do more of that. He wanted to do more of the science fiction, the Star Trek, and the morality tales, and he found a way to put it together. Some of them are really weird, but they do some. There's a race that it's all males, and so it's a one of the bridge officers. Did you watch it?
Yes, I
Okay,
think it's brilliant. I love
I
it.
think so. I don't want to like spoil that one issue, but they have a
No, I've
child.
seen them all. Yeah, I've seen them
Okay,
all.
the one where they have the child that's born female and they have to like culturally
Oh,
they had to change her. You
yeah,
know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
yeah,
that one.
and
I
then
mean, that was like a shockingly deep episode.
they do a
And
lot of that stuff. They do a
yeah,
lot of like social issues, and they joke about it, but they get very serious too.
yes. And
And
so I
I
dig that.
really got involved with all the characters. I mean, I think that it started out really jokey
Right.
because I think that's what he wanted, but it became more serious, and I think they really did a great job. And
I'm gonna
all
have to
those,
go back.
yeah, all those episodes around the sex change, and then you find out one of them had to go through that as a child,
Yeah.
and then was wondering, hey, would you still like love me now that you know that I've, yeah, it. I thought that was great, and also I loved the whole robot
Hmm.
thing that they went through. That I forget what that robot's called, but I thought that was a brilliant show, and
Yeah.
I
And
love
the robot, like, as a character for the first season
Simon
or
or
whatever.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, and he's a character, and there there was one joke where like they were trying to teach him how to do a practical joke, and he cut that guy's leg off. That was hysterical. But then like when he goes completely like mega, crazy and evil,
yeah.
because that's what his race is going to do. Like you don't expect those things, and so yeah, I think that is a lot of Star Trek people really like the Orville, and I just lost track of it.
Mm.
And it is something that now talking to you, I'm like, I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
next time my wife and I need a show, I think I'm gonna have to go watch it.
yeah, it's so good. I should rewatch it. So I guess it is. Oh, we're made it. I like 15 minutes per
Yeah.
topic. We spent like 10 on Pipes of Peace, so we made it up. So now we're gonna go ahead and move on to either Seventh Seal or Winter Soldier. So
Save seventh seal. I think will sound smarter if we end with that.
if we end with Seventh Seal, okay, good. So do you want to stay for Winter Soldier
Well, heck
or
yeah. I'm
okay?
not going to leave unless you want to kick me out.
No, I don't. No.
I did all my homework.
Oh, that's awesome. So let me go ahead and post the. Hold on, it takes me forever. Oh, because I'm really bad. I wish there were an easier way because you like have to do it a specific way when you're posting the link in the chat. You have to like double click for it to come up. You can't copy and paste it.
Oh,
Can you do that?
I don't know.
Oh, anyway, so there's just the link if anybody wants to join.
Because yours is on an iPad, is that why?
No, I'm on a computer right now. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So we're going to be talking about Captain America, Winter Soldier, and like this one, I got through all of the Winter Soldier, and I got into a couple of the other issues after it. It's not technically part of the Winter Soldier, but I wanted to read this whole thing, but I did not get through this whole thing. But I did read all of the Winter Soldier and the part about his daughter, like the Red Skull's daughter.
Yeah, I wish, I wish Hagen was joining us from Lettuce Comics because he could really parse out the minutia. I have not read this in a while. And I reread chunks of it, but I actually worked at a comic book store when I was going through college again, when this was coming out as issues. So like I read it as it came out, month to month, and this was huge. I mean, this was like a big change for Captain America as in terms of tone and in terms of like, importance, because Bucky was supposed to stay dead. He's one of those untouchable characters, Barry Allen, Uncle Ben, and Bucky. And we've had Barry Allen and now Bucky come back. But I think the way that they did it in this was so good. And that's why it people still look at this as this was not like pandering to bring a character back. They really did something unique with it. They had a lot of things to say about mental trauma and friendship and forgiveness and duty, and it was great.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that when, of course, I just read this for the first time, and I think the movies ruined it for me because the movie did such an amazing job with Winter Soldier, right? Those movies, that one and the follow-up, they're phenomenal.
Yeah,
and but they took the idea from this book, right? And so they took everything, and the writers in those movies were good, and they actually build on it and made it better. And they included Iron Man and his whole background, and which isn't here, right? And that made it even more poignant because
I think they took the Winter Soldier and Civil War and kind of melded those two stories together for the MCU. And I don't think that was a bad thing. I think that they because they had things that they had established for a movie audience, and they took a really good story and they found a way to make it work for a movie audience. And I think that's awesome. The
part about him, the Winter Soldier killing Iron Man's parents,
yes,
I thought that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
It really added that, because in this it's Sharon Carter,
yes,
who is mad because Winter Soldier killed her boyfriend, but Iron Man is so much more an important character in the MCU that it just because here we have the tension between Sharon and Cap, right? Sharon wants to straight up kill him, and say he's not redeemable, but Cap is always that force for hope, right? And so that was an interesting change, I thought.
Yeah, and also I think that the character of Captain America being completely a man out of time, this is somebody from his past that was super important to him that is also a man out of time. And so, Steve he is the good guy, but I kind of also get the feeling like that's him holding on a little bit to his past and thinking he's seeing a parallel, with him, and they've both been used in different ways. And by saving him, he's saving himself.
Yeah,
he's helping himself.
And this is someone that, was his partner, and he was partly responsible for his supposed death, right? And
Right.
so there's all that guilt in there, and
Yeah.
Bucky was just human, and he didn't never even had the advantage of that super soldier serum.
Right. And okay, I want to touch on something though in this that just it still
Go
irks
for
me.
it.
So in the middle, so there was a second Bucky, which was Jack Monroe. He was the Bucky of the Captain America of the 50s without going
Oh
into
wait, don't say you hated that issue. That was my
uh
favorite.
it, I hate that they killed Jack Monroe. I hate it because I
Oh,
I love
I want to
I,
find that issue.
it was in the 90s, the Jack Monroe Nomad series. That was one of those books that I collected, and I just got the last issue. So I now have all 25 issues of that run. And I hate when a character like, he was not being used. I get that. But I hate when a character is not being used and they just decide that they're going to kill him. And that's what they did. Like I think they could have left him alive. And yeah, at the end, he's just there. He is. His dead body's just Winter Soldier just throws him in the trunk of the car, which again, kind of I feel like was in the movie with that's what he did with Tony's mom, right? He
Yeah,
shot her and threw her in the trunk, and so like they kept that same thing, but it was tragic, like, because it opens with Jack just drinking in a bar, having absolutely no life anymore. And then it goes through the trauma of his life, how he became him and the other guy. They got like a bad batch of super soldier serum
yeah.
that made them crazy. But it was a good issue. My only thing that I didn't like was I did not like that he had to die at the end, because as far as I know, he's still dead in the Marvel universe. And I think that character has, like Bucky, I think that character has potential to be used by somebody who can say something with him.
Taki. Okay, Taki. Can I just make a little aside here? I miss your
Do it.
videos. Where the hell are they? Taki. I did try to write you. I was desperate because he loves the characters from that milestone, and I know that the milestone characters like Static, and I forget the other one.
Oh yeah, Icon and Hardware, all
Yes,
that.
and I was on my comic shop, and there were a bunch of slabs, and I know that Taki was trying to get them, and they were only like $6. That was the bid. And
What?
I was writing him, do you want me to bid on these or just go there right now? And there was a whole bunch of them. And I know he could have gotten them all for like $10 to $12 each, maybe less, because nobody was bidding on them. And so, Taki, I'm sorry. I should have just bought them and then sent them to you, but I didn't know which ones you had, and I'm kind of on a budget right now. So I'm sorry, Taki. But anyways, back to this issue because I'm not done. Number one, that Nomad character needed to die just for his bad hair. No, I get it that you have a kind of sentimental attachment to the
I
character.
I totally
Well,
do.
and
I
I
will
thought
admit that.
that the whole issue was basically an interlude from the
Yeah.
like a break from the Winter Soldier before we could go back into it. It was like after 6 issues, I guess. Then they had this one issue. Then they went back into it, and
Right.
I just thought it was a fascinating look. It's like when on The Walking Dead they would suddenly do an episode about Negan or an episode about the
Mhm.
governor to give you all this like kind of background, and it's totally not necessary, but it gives you so much more depth, right? And so you have this character that has basically been thrown away. Nobody
Yeah. Right.
He's not a character anymore. He
No.
was popular, and we see what all of like everything that he did, like what that led to. And I just thought it was a really brilliant issue. It was like my favorite
It,
of all of this. And probably it was my favorite because it had nothing to do with the movies. Right. And so this was
yeah.
something fresh, except for
And
what you said
and I'll
about
tell you this, like, even and talking to you now, I 100% agree. I think this was excellent writing. I think it was such a nice little like breathing space for the story, and but to still stay within the universe and have that connection to Captain America, with Jack Monroe as somebody, like the idea of a completely washed out former super soldier, who is just drinking in a piece of crap bar somewhere. So well done. Ed Brubaker is
Right.
one of my favorite writers
Mhm.
of all time. Like his independent work and a lot of it that he does with the artist in here it's just so good. So this was one of my introductions to him as an author. But yeah, I agree. I do think the issue and the story for that one particular issue is wonderful. It just hurts my heart
You
that a
needed to be
character
you wanted a different character.
I wanted a different I needed someone else to die.
Yeah.
Um, but
Um,
I do get it, and it's okay. It's okay. I mean,
I mean, it's a
again,
tragic story, and I
it's
think
a tragic story, and they made me feel the tragedy. They did their
yeah,
job.
I think that's the important thing because this is a character you actually felt for because you
Yeah,
really like the character, right? And so that makes it even more poignant. But I
but I
guess
like I like hearing that you like it too, and you don't have that background with Jack Monroe as Nomad. Like you don't
no,
give a crap, but
nope,
you got the feels from that issue too, and that just tells
yeah.
you how good it was.
It was I think it was the best of all of them, and because they showed, like, the mental breakdown of that guy, and you saw him, like, going out and, like, thinking he's doing good, and he's
Right,
actually just plowing down these innocent people, and he thinks, he's doing something right, and so it was maybe but the tragedy of it is he was gonna die anyway. He was on a trajectory to death
yeah,
because of the serum. And
right,
then you see like the brutalness of the Winter Soldier, right? And how
right,
callous he is, and that was important too, because we have to see how far away he is from the actual Bucky.
right.
Yeah,
I agree. You're right, man. All those layers are there, and it's just it. This whole thing, let's bring back Bucky could be done so cheesy, so bad, with no
yeah,
payoff, with no real reason other than the spectacle of doing it. And what Ed Brubaker did with this storyline added so much. I mean, none of this existed in Bucky's. You know what I mean? Like he built the character of Bucky Barnes right here,
yeah,
and really got people invested in him. And when they go through what Bucky went through when he was pulled, and brainwashed by the Russians and all that, the brutality of that, those things, it's just so well done.
yeah. Did you get to the part about the after, like when he's with? Do you remember? Is the guy named Shadow Bones, or he's got
Uh,
like a skull on his
yeah,
face,
what is his name? Not Bonesaw, but
crossbones or something?
Crossbones. Crossbones.
Okay. And then he gets the daughter of the Red Skull, and she's been like brainwashed into being good. I don't know if you read that. I had some issues with this because the it seemed to me the exact plot of the movie. What was that movie? It's a Holiday in England. It's like not V for Vendetta. The other movie. There's like a movie where this guy wears a white mask. It's made out from a comic book,
Okay.
and and they made a movie out of it. They get the girl, and he puts her through torture, but he's doing it for good,
Oh,
like, right, he's torturing her.
that is V is for Vendetta.
Okay, that one.
Yeah.
It was the same plot. It was the same
Okay.
thing, and I was just like, what? So he grabs this girl and he's torturing her so that she will remember, and then they love each other. It was just like, I didn't like this at all. I
Yeah,
didn't like
I don't remember that. So
it. Was
I
the
don't think.
one. It was the issues right after Winter Soldier. That's what they went
Okay.
into, and I thought, oh, this is
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I read much past that.
oh, okay, because it was still
Or if I
Brubaker.
did, I don't remember because I own this trade.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually have a smaller trade that only includes the Winter Soldier stuff, but this
That's
is
what mine
the,
is.
the Epic collection,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
they
you
did the
have.
first 17 issues
Okay.
and an annual. And I was looking forward to it because one of the I guess it's the annual. Like, I don't know if you can see, but the artwork is really fun. They got
Oh,
a different
wow.
artist for that issue, and
Who
it's
is
kind
that?
of like all red, but it's artists are Javier Peludo, Marcos Martin.
Okay.
And yeah, it's very cartoony, but it
Yeah,
looks like a lot of fun.
like you
Okay,
said, it looks like Mike Allred. I really like clean line art
yeah,
like that.
yeah, and I was looking forward to it just for a break. So I want to ask you, what did you think about the art in Winter Soldier?
I like it a lot. I mean, I think it again, like Ed Brubaker does a lot of crime noir. storytelling, and I feel like that sensibility is here, and it gave a like, to me, before I read this, I did not care about Captain America really at all. And I just feel like this is the storyline that gave it so much gravity that made me want to stick around. So at the time, I was not buying. When I worked at the comic book shop, we were basically encouraged to read everything off the shelf, but we didn't have to buy it. So this was one that I wasn't collecting individual issues of, but I read every week, or every month, and I always looked forward to it. And I like some of the art better than other parts of it, but I just feel like there's a lot of shadows. There's a lot of a film noir look to it, and I love like actual film noir, like movies from the 30s and 40s that have that look. So I dig it. I don't think the faces are always great.
That's what I was going to complain about. I was actually going through it because there's one cover where Bucky and Cap are like facing off, and they're both going, and it really looks bad. And I guess I'm kind of what do you call it, spoiled, because Sean Phillips always works with Brubaker, right?
Yes.
And his art is so good.
Yes. Oh so my God. Good.
And so maybe that's unfair of me to do that, but I just thought the art was good. It was dark, right? Very dark colors, dark palette.
Yeah.
For the most part, it was really good. But every once in a while, you'd be like, oh, like you should have worked a little bit longer on that.
Yeah. I there's a lot of panels of Sharon's face, especially, where I'm just like, she just looks clunky. And I always
the body shapes were a little bit weird on the covers and everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't always notice it as bad with the body shape. But again, I think that's because of the tone and the palette, like you were saying.
What the hell? It's right on the cover. It's right there. I mean, look at their faces.
I mean, and Steve, I can't even really tell you what that captain, like, it almost looks like two football players trying to psych each other up, not two people against each other. Like, yeah, let's go.
It was just off in a weird way. And this is, I guess, the iconic cover because this is where they're squaring off, right? And it's got a great background. I mean, you see the classic versus the modern, right? To give it that perspective. But I just, every time I zero in on their mouths, it just looks so weird.
Whoever the artist is, I do really like their red
Epting,
skull.
I think his name. I think his name is Epting. Let me look. Steve Epting. Steve Epting. There's a couple of others. John Paul Leon. In number 7, that's probably the issue with Nomad.
Like so this, that was a different artist. Like this page here, where they're doing like black and white propaganda films. Man, it works on here so well. It's so good.
And they changed the art. For example, in this, the issue with Nomad, like they changed the art style when they go back to the 90s or whatever, and they make it look a little bit 90s.
Yes.
I like when they do that kind of thing. Like they try to make it separate or different. So, anyways, Captain America, Winter Soldier. I think this is definitely worthy of being one of the most important comics, right? That everybody says, oh, well, if you read something, you should read Winter Soldier. And it's just, it's great. However, I think it's ruined because of the movies. Like the movies, like it's one of those instances where if you've seen the movie, you basically get everything from this. And that's a shame too.
But I think if somebody didn't know about Captain America other than the movies, and they were like, I want to read a comic book about, I think you get more depth here. You get more details here. And if you had that like surface knowledge from the movies, I still think you'd enjoy it, even though you'd seen it. I mean, I do. I've rewatched the movies, and like I said, I was rereading some of this stuff. I reread the Jack Monroe issue, but yeah, I mean, even though I know it, I still enjoy it, and I do think it's one of the things that made that was it. There's a reason that it still is resonating like today. Like there's a reason they picked it for the MCU. It's a good story, and it's a great Cap story.
Absolutely. All right, so we are going to go ahead and move into the 7th deal.
Oh
so
boy!
I'm going to go ahead and put the link in case anybody wants to jump in. So I was able to watch this movie twice. I watched it once, and then I watched it again with the commentary. And
Oh,
so
that was a
I was
good
able to
idea.
focus. Yeah, because Criterion usually has a lot of extras, so I watched a lot of the featurettes and those things. I mean, that's why I buy these. And because of the extras, because this was available on HBO.
Yeah,
So
I watched it on HBO. I watched it while I had 103 fever when I was homesick from work.
that probably
Uh,
enhanced the
it
experience.
I think it did. I think like because I because I was near death myself. I mean, in a broad stroke, the story is a soldier returning from the Crusades trying to avoid the inevitability of his own death by challenging death to a chess match. And then, good Lord, there's so much that happens in this. And it's so I want to start by saying, like, I watched it one time and I recognize that there's a lot happening. I think that the director really wanted to say a lot. I don't know what all I understood from it, but I
Mm.
love stuff like this because I feel like when I think about it, when I talk about it, it makes me smarter when I start to parse it apart. So I'm actually really excited to like, um, you're right, Mark. I'm really excited to like hear your take on it because I have some ideas too. I started to watch somebody's review and then I was like, you know what? No, I don't want to. I don't want their ideas in here yet. I mean, I feel like I'm still going to do that later because I don't feel like I wrapped my head all the way around it at all. So
So I'm gonna admit, like I was totally enjoying it. It's just I knew it would
yeah.
be weird, and I kind of just put myself up to it. But I really wanted to focus on story. I always do, and I was
Mhm.
kind of frustrated because there something happened in the movie, and I thought it was going to go in a direction because of that, and it didn't. I'm going to explain. So there's a robber, and he steals a bracelet from a woman, not a bracelet, like some kind of bracelet. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
bracelet, some jewelry from a woman who is dead. Now I don't know if he killed her or she died from the plague. And later, that character shows up and he's got the plague and he dies right in front of them, right? The thief,
Right. Right. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bad guy. But the really good guy, like the Joseph, he was supposedly a Joseph,
Hmm.
he steals that. And I thought that's going to bring the plague to all of them because once
Right.
he's touched it, and they're all supposed to die anyway.
Right.
And so I was thinking that everybody is going to die from the plague, and that's how death is going to take them all because they're going to die anyway. And I was thinking, even up to the last scene, he goes into his own castle and he's touching his wife,
Right.
and she's going to die too now. It's because they're all just spreading the plague around. That didn't happen at all.
No.
And I was just
I
like, I
mean,
didn't understand. Like,
if
they're all going to die. Give them like a physical reason to die, which
I
would have
mean,
been the plague.
to start at the end, the very last scene of the movie, everybody's
Oh,
dying.
fancy. Yeah,
Everybody's following death except the
the
Trinity, the
Holy Trinity.
family.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
So they're supposed to like represent this new life, new beginning, and I got that. Okay, but I was like, oh, everybody's gonna die from the plague, and that's what this is all about. And then I was just like so thrown by all that because it ended up meaning nothing
yeah,
at all, and I
it,
was just like, I really went on the wrong path with the movie.
there were a lot of parts like where is it the blacksmith
Yeah,
in the forest
yeah, very
that didn't.
Shakespearean Falstaff,
Yeah,
you know.
very
Kind of stuff.
Shakespearean stuff. Didn't I'll be honest, didn't make a ton of sense to me, like within the larger story. Like I felt like the larger first off, Max von Sydow is awesome in this. He's like so young
Yeah,
and like good looking. And the only thing I love to admit this, legitimately, the only thing I've ever seen him in is Strange Brew. A movie from the 80s with Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. It's based on a sketch that they did from SCTV about these drunken Canadian brothers. It's a great movie and he plays the villain in it. So like every time I see him in something else, that's like my launch point. But in this, it's like this very Shakespearean, he was so good in it. It was like
mm.
a lot of very quiet moments and he had so much going on underneath. I just loved to watch him.
Yeah. He was somebody who was very faith driven. and you know that character, right? But even though
Right.
he's faith driven, he's railing against death. And I liked his counterpart, the Squire. I thought he was my favorite character, right?
Did
The
you
one who always
think?
just rebelled and I'm sorry.
Well, you said faith driven because he comes back from the Crusades, but I really got this impression
His
that
faith was shaken,
he was very disillusioned. Like, and
but
I
he was
liked,
still faithful. Like he's the one who always prays. He's the one
yeah,
who goes to church, even though he's questioning.
but it's
He's
yeah,
very faith driven.
he's always
That's
got
what I
that
mean. Like,
one eye like
he doesn't
sideways
throw faith
because
away,
no, he's not
right?
going to, but he's kind
Unlike the
of
Squire.
like I think he's really pissed off because he's gonna die and because he did all the things. I went to the freaking Holy Land and fought in the war and
And
he's
I
like
did
and
all these unmentionable things. I did all these
terrible
horrible
things
things.
and my reward is that I'm still gonna die,
And
even
everyone around
after
me has a plague, and it's just like,
yeah,
what is this life, right?
exactly. It was I don't it was a lot going on and a lot of like really deep questioning things and I don't know I keep saying it but I don't know exactly what I understood, but whatever it is I was pulling in, I really enjoyed this.
Can I have an aside for you? There's a
Yeah.
movie, and I can't remember the name. If Morton is here, he could probably help me. But Max von Sydow starred in a foreign movie, of course, because he was foreign. So he did some English movies, but he also did movies, of course, in his own native language. And one of them was nominated for the Academy Award the year it came out, and it was late 80s, very,
Okay.
very late 80s. This movie has stuck with me. I haven't seen it since, and that movie was so powerful. And it was about a group of people who are serfs on a kind of plantation, and
Okay.
everybody on, like, the owners of the farm, they're like lords. They lord it over everybody, and everything that happened. And he's got a son that he's trying to protect, and I think he's recently widowed. He's so good in that movie, and everything that happens on that farm. I mean, like, I remember that movie to this day, and I still haven't seen it, except I don't remember the name. That movie is so good. I gotta find the name and send it to you because
Okay.
you have to watch it. He's so good in that movie.
That sounds
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, more than a comedy of Strange Brew.
No, it's Strange Brew is a movie that my dad loved and so I just I mean that movie is super important to me
Oh,
because of that
since
connection.
we're talking about comedies, let me just throw in here the fact that I sat through. So my friend was saying, you got to mention, how Bill and Ted go to the underworld and
Yep.
they play games. They play like
Yeah.
Battleship and Twister. Um,
Right.
and so I went ahead and watched the movie, and man, that was a
I
bad movie. It was
I
so
know, but don't you see some parallels with
exactly because
with
it's so. This
they
movie
took
is so important culturally.
correct. They took some nods from this
Yeah.
because of that. Yeah, and yeah. I've not I even left you a comment on that video. I've not seen Bogus Journey since the theater. I saw it one time in the theater, but I'm going to watch it again. I'm going to watch. So all right, go back to Seventh Seal.
Yeah.
I was confused when Max von Sydow came upon the acting troupe. Like when I was, and again, I was sick when I was watching it, but I kind of got the impression at first, like this was in the past. This was not his story. Like I thought it was a flashback. So then I think I get it. Like he shows up, he finds these people and he's kind of like collecting people as he's heading towards his castle. Like he's still doing the night thing. He's still protecting people. So is
Yeah.
that it? Am I understanding
Well,
that right?
I saw it as like the director wanted to really showcase all kinds of different aspects of humanity, and
Yeah.
so along the way we're getting like all these different kinds of Shakespearean like characters.
Yeah.
Like we got the Falstaff, we got the lusty woman. Even if
Yes.
you could probably, I just love this. You could probably relate it to the Canterbury Tales, which
I
I never
I
thought of.
almost just said the same thing. It's almost like
Yeah,
a Canterbury Tales, like along the way, we're picking up all these different characters,
where
and the
we're going.
characters are there to represent a certain archetype.
Yeah, and so as we're going along, like even we got the villain, and he's quickly dispatched, and so
Mhm.
yeah, and the all the people that he brings along the way, they just open up more. But the thing is, you got that holy trinity, and
Yes.
that again, I was still grappling with that because I really liked the acting, the acting people,
Yes,
and
I did too.
one of the most harrowing scenes is when they're acting, and then all of a sudden that like troop comes through town and they're like beating each other, and they're like they just
Yes.
go through town, and it's like really disturbing because even as they're going away, one of them is on her knees going along, and I mean you just know like she's ripping her knees to shreds,
Yeah.
and that's what they have to do, right? They have to like
Mhm.
experience so much pain because they think it's going to save them from the plague.
And that's what I got from the acting troupe. I mean, even more than like the Holy Trinity thing, and I know that that is like that's definitely there, but I felt like they were more about like so you got these people like beating themselves and nailing themselves to cry and just destroying their bodies because they think if they punish themselves that the plague will be over, or that they'll somehow be able to escape it. And I felt like the acting troupe was 100% the opposite. They didn't give a shit. They didn't care about the Crusades. They didn't care. They were just living in the moment. They were the most free. Like they're laying in the grass. We got a bowl of cream and strawberries, and it seemed like they had no idea where it came from, and they didn't care. Again, they just didn't
Yeah,
care. Like the universe was providing for them, and they were just trying to spread some joy. And when the seriousness comes to town, they
they're like,
they just took off.
yeah, but they're on the stage and they're like, "Mm."
Yeah.
They
I
are singing. They're like, they just stop mid song and they're like, "What the freak show is this?"
It was
Uh,
that was and that was a great scene. Like I remember thinking too, because there was a thatch house roof, like a thatch roof building in the background, and I just thought how now that would all be CG'd in somehow, right?
yeah,
They built this stuff. They built this stuff, and they built it to look medieval, and everything that all of the sets that they had looked really good.
yeah. Yeah, even when they get into the castle, it's just like
Mm,
the lighting because they use like torches and everything. It
yeah,
was so cool. But there's an element of this story of a play within a play. And so we're watching a movie, and then we're watching a person in the movie, and then we're watching a person doing a play within the movie. And so that's also very Shakespearean because it's
yeah,
also supposed to represent like life. Like, are we acting? Are we like walking through our lives and like all that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
also that there was an earlier church scene, and that scene was like mirrored. They showed it on the wall, and the squire was having an interesting discussion about art and religion in that scene, and then he shows like the whole
Yeah.
plague and everything, and then we get to imagine it, and we see all the boils and all the procession, and then we get to see it, and so it was like we got to imagine it first, and then
Mhm.
we got to see it, and that was really well done. um I'd be interested to hear the Criterion commentary. Yeah, I love Criterion commentaries, and there was I think it was an art historian, and not an art historian, a movie historian, and so he talked to the entire movie, and I'm a geek. I love that stuff,
That's
and
awesome.
probably a lot of the stuff that I'm saying are like his ideas. So because I watched the commentary, and I don't remember. I saw it over a week ago, right? But yeah, so much of the movie, like we don't really think about it, but there's like layers and layers, and this is a movie that you can watch a couple times, more than once at least, and you can get a lot more out of it, right?
I will
Especially now that I know that that thing is not plague driven. I have to realize that it's more
yeah,
surreal because I was trying to put like I knew there was a surreal element to it, but I also wanted to give their deaths like a reason or a meaning. And it's like we just went through COVID, and we
right,
were all paranoid about touching each other or even touching things and bringing things into our homes. People were like spraying and wiping down things they bought. I mean, it
right.
got that bad. And I mean, I remember how people were going like so crazy to like spray everything where they went, everything that they touched. You went outside, you sprayed the door handles. you wouldn't go near someone if they had touched something, so you'd spray it all. Like even the cans of food that you brought from the grocery store.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that with the the bracelets. I'm like, well, they don't know how it's spread, and so I was fixated on that bracelet because then he gave the bracelet to the woman and the child was there too, and I thought, oh God, they're
Right.
like spreading the plague right now to these innocents, but that ended up not being what it was about.
I kind of felt like there was just this whole like death, death as a character is just shaking his head at everybody. Like, look, it's inevitable. You can't make it. You can't avoid this. I'm coming. I'm here. This is going to happen. And the night, like early on, starting the game, as they played, he came to that realization. There was that moment in the woods where they're playing chess on the stump, and the knight is really not into it anymore. And that was the moment when the actors kind of saw death for the first time, like they hadn't seen him. And I and they saw, and then that's when they took off. Now I don't know what that means, but I feel like that's why at the end, for whatever reason, they survived while everyone else is following
Yeah,
death,
yeah.
and dancing. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know
so
what that means.
he has a sense from the beginning, and he sees death, and yeah, they take off, um, but I was still kind of like, ugh. And of course, everyone else went into a storm, and then they go into this really dark castle. But I was thinking from the beginning, if you watch the opening scene, they both look dead. They're like
Yes.
on the beach, and the one guy is even like this, but they're just sleeping. So I mean, you could interpret this whole movie as being like in
Yeah.
purgatory or something.
I
And they're
I
just
thought
meeting
that.
all these weird dead people along the way.
Well, also, like, they're back from the Crusades, but where's the boat? Where's the rest of the people they
Yeah, that
traveled
looks like
with?
they crash landed, and like there are horses, so maybe the boat just dropped them off and then
Yeah.
kept going.
But I did wonder from the beginning, like, is this just an allegory of this guy has died and he's not accepting it, and all
Yeah,
of these people are dead, and this is the journey they take to, is it that kind of story? And
to
I
get to
think
death.
I think you could interpret it that way.
I think so.
Having only seen it once, I don't know. I want to talk about my favorite scene though, like one that I literally laughed out loud.
Which
Um,
one?
is the guy who climbs the tree to escape death, and then they chop the tree down, and that's how
And
he
he dies.
dies.
Yeah,
I
and
just
it was a silly character from the
it
beginning.
was it
Was
was so it was so funny to me. Because the night he's like, I'm gonna play this cerebral game and I'm gonna stretch this out so that I get as much time as I can. And the other guy's like, I'm just gonna hide up in this tree. And
yeah,
so they chop it down.
that just knobs it down. But notice, like when he's on the ground, he's wearing his mask, which is basically a beard. And so he's lying in the grass and he's wearing his mask, and the mask protects him, so he thinks. But he
Yeah,
takes off his mask, and now he's vulnerable again. And
right.
that's when death is
Yeah.
able to strike. Because a lot of people, there was actually this belief, like if you like put on
Hmm.
a mask, you could avoid death. And so he literally had like some kind of mask on his face,
Okay.
and then when he took it off, death was able to get him. So that's another one of these like crazy medieval ideas that I think they play with, and I got that totally from the commentary. I did not think that
Okay.
up.
I didn't even notice it, but like I said, that's why I like to talk about things like this.
There are little
It's
details like that, and then
yeah.
when you know the history, you're like, oh, that's why they're doing that, or oh, that's that, because there's so many things, because we're removed from what the
Hmm.
Middle Ages. We don't know all of their customs and everything. I mean, come on, people are parading through the streets beating themselves,
Right.
silly,
And
because they think that's going to bring them closer to God and get them away from a plague.
I don't know the answer. I just do wonder, like, in choosing to tell this story, how much work the director put into learning some of those things, from this time period to hide those Easter eggs, like you said, the mask and things like that. What was his knowledge base? Choosing this time period, I think, is really interesting. You could tell this story in a modern setting or in a different setting, no problem. But this setting in particular is just really, I thought it was really powerful because it's such a stark time.
Yeah.
And it just really let the composition of the frames and the things that they chose to shot, like you said, the castle, like everything was just very serious and stark.
Yeah. And there's something to be said about the scenery in this movie. Like every scene looks like a painting,
Hmm.
or and the way light is used. And light has meaning too. Like they're in the castle, and they're sitting there having dinner, and the one girl who's mute,
Hmm.
she looks up and light starts streaming in, and death is approaching. But it's maybe not something that you should be afraid of, because it's light streaming in, right? And so they all have this idea that death is so negative, but it's
Right.
just an inevitability, right? And they're all struggling to get away from him, but notice at the end they're all dancing with him.
Right.
They're dancing up a hillside. And so it's our ideas of death being so negative.
Well, and not only are they dancing, like speaking of light, like when they're dancing up the hillside, it's bright, it's
Yeah,
sunny, and the music is happy. Like the music has completely changed. Like the end, and that's why I kind of wonder: is this the journey of accepting your own death? You wake up on the rocky shore where nothing's growing and everything's gross and cold, and you look like a broken body, but you're trying to hang on for what? For this, for the rocks, for the cold ass ocean.
yeah.
No, you're going to be much happier up on that hill dancing in the sunlight.
But the three characters who lived their life to the fullest, who enjoyed life, they're the ones that survive, right? And
Right.
so they're going on into the brightness of the day, to enjoy life. Yeah, interesting. Oh, also the commentator stated that at the beginning of this movie, they come out of the water. Max von Sydow goes into the water and he comes out again. And this is an important motif in the director's films. He does it a lot.
Hmm.
And that actually at the end of the movie, they're back at the water. So
Right.
it's like a full circle journey, right? And they survive a storm, and they're overlooking the water and the beach. They're up on a cliff, right? They're in that little
Yes.
Wizard of Oz type cart where
Yeah.
the magician, like they're all in the three of them,
In that
and yeah, it's like,
caravan.
yeah, and they're back to the water again.
But I did notice that, like, it started on that beach and then it
Yeah,
ended on what looked like the same beach, and I'm just thinking, okay, did they go all the way across England from one beach to the other, or did they do a big U-ey and just end
yeah.
up back where they
The director
started?
didn't have that much money, so they only had a few locations. Yeah. So I guess there's so much more to say about this, but we're already over an hour. This movie is definitely worth watching. This
I
is a
agree.
great film. You might be frustrated along the way. I mean, it is surreal, and
Mhm.
surreal is not for everybody. And like I was struggling to put meaning and plot into it, and that ended up frustrating me. But I had to let it go because I really just enjoyed the visuals, and I enjoyed the actors and the characters that they created. I mean, everybody is really good in this movie, and
Agreed.
all the weird zaniness that ensues along the way. I mean, it just adds up to telling a great story that you can ponder, and every time you watch it, you can come away with something new. And I think because I just went through, or we all just went through COVID, that put a lot of meaning into this movie for me, which someone pre-COVID, might not have thought about, right? Because we're dealing with plague in this movie.
Yeah,
So those are my final thoughts.
I like what you said with ponder too, because I don't think I definitely didn't come away feeling like I completely understood it, but I enjoyed the journey, and I do find myself going back and thinking about certain scenes and things that happened in the movie.
Yeah. So I want to thank the people who are in the audience. And I'm very sorry. This is a week late. Oh, I'm not done yet. I have to announce what's next. You can stay if you want for that, or you can leave. I don't mean to make you stay. But next time we are going to be going over Coltrane's Sound. And the reason I picked this is because this was just recently re-released on vinyl. And it's in a beautiful, beautiful set, but it's like $40 if you want to buy it. But yeah, a brand new, and it might even be a double disc. So that's going to be Coltrane Sound, and it is available on Spotify. Oh, we got some comments. So here's Mark. Mark, would you say it was as good? You know what? I didn't mind Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. That was okay. It was the second movie that was horrible. It was Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and it was absolutely a bogus journey. And I will say that the set pieces, though, are amazing. They got a big budget for that second movie. Oh, Sleepy Reader. Hi, Sleepy. Thank you for being here.
Maybe.
Plus, now you get references to the movie and other movies. Absolutely.
Mhm.
It's so culturally important, that movie. And because we did Star Trek, I promise we're going to do Star Wars. And so we're going to read the first book in the Han Solo Adventures by Brian Daley. Now, I believe Splinter of the Mind's Eye was the first standalone Star Wars book, but I'd already read that one. And I believe this is the second one. And this comes in a trilogy. So they're all by Brian Daley. And so we're only going to read the first one, but hey, and this is readily available on Amazon. So the Han Solo Adventures by Brian Daley. And the first one, if you want to just buy the first book, it's called Han Solo at Star's End. So that's the book we're going to be reading. The movie we're going to be watching is Company. And this is a documentary about the making of the Broadway cast album for the Broadway show. And we don't realize it, but Broadway companies make their cast albums, and they have a very limited time to make them. And this is a 15-hour grueling session where they had to like record the entire album. And of course, they're still on Broadway and they're doing it. And this was documented. Now, this might sound boring, but I think it's going to be fascinating. And it's only 53 minutes long. So again, look at all the features on this Criterion collection. So I'm going to have my work cut out for me because, you know, I'm going to watch all those features. But this is actually a song. I love Sondheim. And this is actually a Sondheim I don't really know well. There's actually a lot of them I don't know well. But of course, this has a couple actual hits. Like, I think this one has Send in the Clowns. Or, well, it definitely has The Ladies Who Lunch. It doesn't have Send in the Clowns. And then the graphic novel is going to be Essex County by Lemire. And I don't have it to show because I ordered it on Amazon. And it's taking a ridiculously long time to get here, not because of that, but because of something else I ordered with it. So if you order it, it will come fast. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So that will be near the end of the month. I'll go ahead and make an announcement for that. Oh yes, thank you for asking. I made sure the Company is on HBO Max, so it is cool. Streamed. Yeah, it's there. And yeah, Criterion always nails it with the special features. I do want to say that Sleepy Reader and I are planning to do another Sondheim with because his most recent musical is based on two films of Luis Buñuel, if I'm saying it correctly. And so we're going to watch those movies, and we're going to come and we're going to listen to it. And we're going to do a show about that. But I'm having problems because those two movies aren't streaming and I don't have them. And so I think Criterion has their sale in October. And if they do, I'm going to go ahead and try to get those movies, you know, because their Criterion sale is always half off. You get things for 15 to 20 bucks. So I'm not going to buy it until then. But anyways, I want to thank everybody. Do you have any? I need to thank you because you like supported the show here. Because normally I'm just up here like by myself. So thank you so much for jumping in. And do you have any final thoughts?
No, I thought this was really fun. I was telling somebody about it, and they said, "Well, that's a lot of homework." I was like, "Yeah, but it's like I love this idea. It's an eclectic tour of so many different genres." And just, I don't know, just a chance to talk and nerd out, man. So I thank you for having me on. I loved it.
Thank you. I know it's kind of like weird, but I have all this stuff just sitting here, and I joke about this because I always say, hey, you know, I need to delve into my collection and look at what I have. And then I just go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff. And so I just grapple with that idea of just, and even now I went out and bought even though I have these things, I bought the Lemire thing. And I have plenty of graphic novels. Yeah. But this is something that everyone's saying is so great that I need to read.
Dude, I'm so glad I'm really glad you're getting it, because I think it is. I don't want to, like, set it up too much, but it is one of the best things I have read in years. And I gave it to my wife, and she read it, and she's like, "This is this is amazing. It's really well done." So
Yeah,
it's a good choice. Good choice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, everybody, go ahead and get your stuff. This is on Spotify. You can get this on Amazon, and this one is on HBO. And I don't know about the Essex County, but I think I paid $16 for it.
Yeah,
so
and don't forget, your libraries will get books for you. You go talk to your librarian and tell them you want it; they'll get it for you.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? I should see if those Luis Buñuel movies are on the library. A lot of the times they are.
Yeah.
So I forgot about that. I got to check that out. Okay, because maybe I could do it without having to buy the movies. So again, I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody in the audience for supporting me. And I'll take. Oh, if you want, just stay around a couple of seconds.
I'll hang a minute. I'll hang a minute.
Okay. I'm thinking now.